See, she only go out with rappers and entertainers and that. She don't know where to get the real big.
And I knew he was African because as he came over, I noticed he had on bootleg Gucci from head to toe. I got booed, yeah. And then I
told everybody to kiss your ass.
Kiss my. I said that word, blah, 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 and I threw them like 25 grand.
See, what really happened to Charlie Murphy before he died? It has been 8 years since the world lost the famous comedian and brother of Eddie Murphy.
Eddie sat me down one day and said, look, man, I really like, having you around and everything.
You're a good guy.
Last night when you stomped that guy just because, he didn't laugh.
Right.
People loved him for his jokes and funny stories. But behind the laughter, was there something darker? Now, his family is speaking out. Were the rumors true? Did Charlie hide his pain from the world? The truth is finally coming out.
I think what I really think affected me the most was, when I was 10 years old, my father was murdered.
Right.
Okay? And I didn't realize it, but I guess it had an effect on me. I became,
Charlie Murphy had a rough childhood. He was a troubled teen who got into fights and experimented with drugs. He even found himself in a dangerous situation at school. One day, after threatening a classmate, someone held a gun to his head. That moment was scary, but it didn't stop him from getting into more trouble.
Like, oh yeah, you want to jump me because I'm from Brooklyn? Well, here's my boy from the Bronx, my other boy from Harlem.
Right.
Now jump us.
Charlie was arrested for robbing a driver at gunpoint. He was given 3 years of probation, but that didn't keep him out of trouble. In the last year of his probation, he was arrested again for larceny, loitering, and other small crimes. The judge was not happy with him, so he was sent to county jail to finish the rest of his probation. He spent 10 months behind bars.
Getting arrested, I was different.
Were you?
Really?
Were you in trouble with the law?
Quite a bit, yes.
Were you ever in prison, though?
Nassau County Jail was as far as it went for me.
Right.
At one point, Charlie was part of a group called the 5 Percenters. This group had strong beliefs about black people being the original people of the earth and the fathers and mothers of civilization. But Charlie started to have doubts. He didn't like being told what to believe without good explanations. He had an analytical mind and liked to question things. In an interview, he said he didn't want to just accept something because someone told him it was the truth. Eventually, he decided to walk away from the group. After getting out of jail, Charlie's mother was worried about him. She took him to different military offices, hoping they would accept him. But they all refused because of his criminal record. His mother didn't give up. She begged the Navy to take him, saying that if they didn't, he would be killed in the streets. The Navy finally agreed, and Charlie served for 6 years as a boiler technician.
When I was in the Navy, I worked in the boiler room.
Right. So you got out and Eddie gave you a
didn't have
job.
a boiler room where he needed
Now look,
employees, so...
After Charlie got out of the Navy, Eddie gave him a job. There was no boiler room job waiting for him. His brother was already a superstar, so Eddie made Charlie his bodyguard. Some people thought Charlie only had the job because Eddie wanted to help him, but Charlie made it clear. He never asked Eddie for anything. It was Eddie who asked him if he wanted to work as his bodyguard. Charlie accepted. His job was to be by Eddie's side and protect him.
salary.
My brother put me on salary. He gave me a job. I didn't ask him to give me a job.
Right.
He asked me, do I want to work for him?
Right. And all you got to do is hang out and protect Eddie.
Yeah.
Charlie took his job very seriously, maybe a little too seriously. He admitted that at times he was overzealous. That means he was too aggressive. He joked that he would jump on people just for not laughing at Eddie's jokes. If someone said something bad about Eddie, Charlie was ready to fight. He was very protective, not just of Eddie, but of his other younger brother as well. Even as he got older, he still had that protective nature, but he learned to handle things differently. Instead of fighting, he learned to use words to defend himself and his family. At one point, Eddie had to talk to Charlie about his behavior. He sat Charlie down and told him he liked having him around, but he needed to calm down. Charlie admitted that his aggressive nature got him into trouble. There were situations where things got out of control, and at one point, they even had to leave Los Angeles for a while because of some incidents.
Eddie sat me down one day and said, "Look, man, I really like, having you around and everything.
You're a good guy.
Last night when you stomped that guy just because, he didn't laugh."
Right.
So people always thought that Eddie gave Charlie the job to help him. But Charlie said that wasn't true. His change came from something deeper. When he was just 10 years old, their father was murdered.
Did they ever catch your dad's killers?
The woman that killed my father.
Oh, it was a woman.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why did a woman kill your father?
Lovers quarrel.
Lovers quarrel.
Oh, so your parents weren't together?
Stories, no, they weren't together.
Oh, okay.
Charlie didn't realize it at the time, but losing his father made him very angry. That anger stayed with him as he grew up. He acted out and got into fights. After their father died, the family moved to Roosevelt, Long Island. But Charlie wasn't happy about it. He was from Brooklyn, and in Roosevelt, he felt like an outsider. People saw him as different, but he wasn't the only one. That year, a lot of families from the city moved to Long Island. Many kids were from places like the Bronx and Harlem. They all felt like outsiders, so they stuck together. They formed a crew to protect each other. Life in Roosevelt was tough, and Charlie had to be strong. When asked about his father's murder, Charlie revealed something shocking. His father was killed by a woman. The interviewer was surprised and asked why. Charlie said it was an old story, one that happens too often. He told his kids, "If a woman is mad, don't close your eyes." It was a dark joke, but it showed that he had lived through a painful experience. Despite all the trouble Charlie went through, he never felt jealous of Eddie's success. Some people thought it must have been bittersweet to watch his little brother become a superstar while he struggled. But Charlie said there was nothing bitter about it. He was extremely proud of Eddie. He knew their family's history. They came from a long line of people who had to struggle. No one in their family had ever gone to places like Harvard or had big careers. They were regular Black Americans, working hard just to get by.
Because before my generation or whatever, I can't look back and go, "Oh, yeah, my uncle went to Harvard and then he was this."
Right.
No, we was, regular American Black people, struggling to get ahead. And then one of us broke through.
Over time, he started getting recognized for his own talent. People saw that he was funny, and he started to gain his own fame. He got into acting and appeared in several movies. Many of the movies he did were comedies, but he was often cast as the tough guy. Even though he was in funny movies, he was always given the role of the mean character. Charlie eventually became famous for his work on Chappelle's show. But the way he met Dave Chappelle wasn't because he was a comedian. It was because of the movies he had been in. People knew his face from the tough guy roles he had played. That's how he got connected with Chappelle. Over time, he started doing more comedy.
I'd been in comedies, but they always would hire me to be the mean guy.
Right.
And I kept going after that, but they was always casting me in comedy, so how bad could you really be looked at if it's a comedy? But I kept doing it, and it ended up with me eventually going to Chappelle.
Talking about comedy, Charlie Murphy once shared a story about the worst comedy show he ever had. It was a tough experience, but he learned a lot from it. He said it happened in St. Louis, and it was the first time he ever bombed on stage. Before that, he had been doing stand-up for about 3.5 years and had never failed before. He felt unstoppable, like nothing could go wrong. But this time, it was different. As soon as he stepped on stage, the audience had already decided they didn't like him. It wasn't that they thought his jokes weren't funny. They just didn't like him. It happened right at the beginning of the show. They didn't even wait to hear his jokes. They made up their minds as soon as he came out. That was a shock for him because it had never happened before.
As soon as I came out, the crowd wasn't having it. That's not what they're not there to see. I ain't a rapper. This is comedy.
Charlie admitted that he was overconfident at that time. He was so sure of himself because he had never failed. He even gave an interview where he compared himself to a champion, saying he was like LeBron James, undefeated and untouchable. He believed nothing could go wrong. But that night in St. Louis, reality hit him hard. He went on stage feeling good, full of energy and wearing shades. He thought he looked cool, but the crowd was not impressed. They weren't there to see a rapper or someone showing off. They came for comedy, and he wasn't giving them what they wanted. That's when he realized he had to change. He had to figure out how to connect with the audience.
I had to learn how to present myself, to an audience that is universally appealing. I had to learn all that from going on stage, man. That was one of my lessons.
Charlie learned a big lesson that night. He understood that he couldn't pretend to be someone he wasn't. He had to be himself on stage. If he had tried to act like another comedian, it wouldn't have worked. People would have seen right through it. The only way he could win was by bringing his true self to the stage. Another challenge Charlie faced was being Eddie Murphy's brother. Eddie was one of the greatest comedians of all time. It's not easy to follow in the footsteps of someone so famous. People don't usually expect a sibling to be just as good. He mentioned how you don't see Michael Jordan's brother playing basketball at the same level. You don't see Chris Rock's brother, Tony Rock, reaching the same level of success. The same goes for music. Beyoncé's sister, Solange, isn't as big as Beyoncé. Charlie believed one reason he was able to succeed was because he didn't try to be part of Eddie's comedy crew. Eddie had a group of famous comedians around him, like Chris Rock and Arsenio Hall. But Charlie didn't hang out with them. He stayed on his own path. He wanted to develop his own style, not copy anyone else's. He also knew that reminding people of his brother would be a mistake. If people thought he was just trying to be like Eddie, they wouldn't take him seriously. They wouldn't come to see him again. The only way he could succeed was by being different. He couldn't remind people of Eddie Murphy, Bernie Mac, or Chris Rock. They were already legends. The only way to stand out was to be someone new.
I got booed, yeah. And then I
told everybody to kiss your ass.
Kiss my. I said the F word, blah blah blah, and I threw them like 25 grand.
See, Charlie Murphy once shared a funny but real story about getting booed at Grambling State University. If you don't know, Charlie Murphy was a famous comedian and actor. He was Eddie Murphy's older brother and was known for his comedy and storytelling. He was always real and honest about his experiences, and this was no different. So, what happened at Grambling State University? Well, Charlie was doing a comedy show there, and things didn't go as planned. The crowd started booing him. Imagine standing on stage, trying to make people laugh, and instead, they are yelling and booing. That's tough. But Charlie didn't let it slide. He told the crowd to kiss his behind, but in stronger words, and then did something crazy. He threw their money back at them. He had been paid $25,000 for the show, and he gave it right back. He didn't want it.
I wanted them to know, because they were young people, you know what I'm saying? I wanted them to know, stand up for yours, you know what I'm saying? Don't be a seller. If I would have took the money, it would have been like day one, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, why would he do that? Most people would take the money and leave, even if the crowd was rude. But Charlie wanted to send a message. He wanted them to know that he wasn't just going to take their money and walk away feeling disrespected. He believed in standing up for himself. If he had kept the money, it would have felt like the students had won, like they had the power. But Charlie was a man of principle. He didn't feel like the boos were fair, so he said, "Keep your money." And the truth is, Charlie wasn't worried about losing $25,000. He was making money all the time.
So it was like, yo, you can keep your money because tomorrow I'm going to make this money again anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's not like when you see me, it goes, oh, this is the only show he's doing this year.
At the time this happened, Charlie was doing shows everywhere. In that same year, he had done over 270 shows before he even got to Grambling. And after Grambling, he kept working. He did another 150 shows in just a few months. So, losing one show's payment didn't really affect him. He knew that the people booing him weren't stopping his success. The next day, he was back on stage, making money, making people laugh. That one bad night didn't matter in the long run. Some people from Grambling went on social media and bragged about booing him. They thought they had embarrassed Charlie Murphy. But in reality, the only reason they had something to talk about was because of Charlie. If they hadn't booed him, they wouldn't even be in the conversation. Meanwhile, Charlie kept doing big things. He had been performing all over the country in major cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Grambling was just one stop in a long career. Charlie also pointed out something interesting. This didn't happen in a big comedy club like Caroline's in New York or the Nokia Theater in Los Angeles. This happened in a small, isolated place in Louisiana. He had performed in other places in Louisiana, like New Orleans and Shreveport, and got nothing but love. But Grambling was different. It was a small college town where even using a cell phone outside was a challenge.
I mean, even when slapping was fashionable, and, you know, they did it in Paris, the guy would come up, I challenge you to a duel. They would have a gunfight after that. Somebody had to go.
Charlie's first time in a movie was in 1970 in a film called The Landlord. This was a drama comedy about a young man who buys a building in a poor neighborhood. The movie was filmed in the same area where Charlie lived. He only had a small role, playing a boy who steals car hubcaps. It was a short scene, but it was the beginning of his journey in Hollywood. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Charlie acted in small roles in different movies. He also worked behind the scenes in the music business. He helped a hip-hop group called K9 Posse. This group included his half-brother, Vernon Lynch Jr., and another musician named Wardell Mahone. Charlie was very involved in their 1988 album. He was listed as the executive producer, which means he helped organize the music. He also wrote songs for them, including Somebody's Brother and Say, Who Say What. He even appeared in the music video for their first song, This Beat Is Military. In 1993, Charlie got his first big movie role in CB4. This was a comedy film about a fake rap group. Charlie played a character named Gusto, who was a gangster. His role was important to the story because the main characters pretended to be tough, and Gusto was the real deal. This movie helped people notice his acting skills.
See, she only go out with rappers and entertainers and shit like that. She don't know where to get the real big.
Even though Charlie had been working for years, he became really famous because of Chappelle's show. This was a comedy show created by comedian Dave Chappelle. On the show, Charlie told funny stories about things that happened when he was part of his brother Eddie's group. These stories were called Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories. He talked about meeting famous people like the musician Rick James and the singer Prince. His storytelling made people laugh because he described crazy moments in a very serious way. The most popular story was about playing basketball with Prince. People loved it so much that it became a big part of pop culture. After Dave Chappelle left his own show, there were still some episodes that had not been shown. Charlie and another comedian, Donald Rawlings, took over and hosted these lost episodes. They introduced the unfinished sketches and kept the show going for a little while. Charlie continued acting in movies. In 2005, he was in a film called King's Ransom. This was a comedy about a rich man who wants to fake his own kidnapping. Charlie played a character named Herb, a gay ex-convict who is hired to help with the fake crime. It was a funny role that showed his ability to play different kinds of characters.
You ain't gonna try to play me and take my money and end up under the bridge drunk somewhere, are you?
Oh. Charlie also did voice work. He lent his voice to many projects, including commercials for Budweiser beer. He voiced a character in the animated TV show, The Boondocks. His character, Ed Wunkler III, was a soldier who became a criminal. He also worked on the famous video game Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. In the game, he played a character named Jizzy B, a pimp. Another video game he worked on was Mark Echo's Getting Up, Contents Under Pressure, where he played a graffiti artist named White Mike. He even voiced Spock in some Star Trek parody shorts on TV. Charlie also did a voice role in Norbit, a 2007 comedy movie starring his brother Eddie Murphy. He played a talking dog in the film. In 2009, Charlie started his own comedy show called Charlie Murphy's Crash Comedy. It was released on a website called Crackle. The show had short, funny sketches that Charlie helped write and perform in. In 2010, he released a stand-up comedy special called Charlie Murphy, I Will Not Apologize. This was a big moment in his career because it showed his comedy skills outside of TV and movies. It aired on Comedy Central, a popular comedy network.
And I knew he was African because as he came over, I noticed he had on bootleg Gucci from head to toe.
Charlie also made guest appearances on different TV shows. He was in an episode of 1,000 Ways to Die, a show that told unusual and sometimes funny stories about how people met unfortunate ends. He also appeared in the sitcom Are We There Yet? As a character named Frank Kingston. In 2014 and 2015, he played a role in the Adult Swim show Black Jesus. His character, Vic, was one of the main characters in the series. Charlie Murphy had a great career in comedy and acting. Even though he was often seen as Eddie Murphy's brother, he made a name for himself through his storytelling and humor. People loved his unique way of telling stories, and he became an unforgettable part of pop culture. The elder Murphy's life journey and comedic career were sadly cut short following a devastating bout of illness, as The Independent reported at the time.
Now with the latest on comedian Charlie Murphy, the older brother of Eddie Murphy, passing away after a brave battle with leukemia.
In a statement to The Hollywood Reporter, Charlie's former publicist, Dominic Nadi, confirmed he had passed away from leukemia on Wednesday, April 12, 2017. The Chappelle's Show star was just 57 years old. Our hearts are heavy with the loss today of our son, brother, father, uncle, and friend Charlie, the Murphy family shared in an official statement to the publication. They continued, "Charlie filled our family with love and laughter, and there won't be a day that goes by that his presence will not be missed. Thank you for the outpouring of condolences and prayers. We respectfully ask for privacy during this time of great loss for all of us." Notably, Charlie posted an ominous final tweet just 2 days before his untimely death, which read, "One to sleep on. Release the past to rest as deeply as possible." Devastatingly, Charlie Murphy succumbed to leukemia 8 years after the death of his wife, Tisha Taylor Murphy, who also passed away from ovarian cancer in December 2009. As MTV reports, the pair married in 1997 and had 2 children together. A statement from the family's publicist noted, Tisha Taylor Murphy, wife of comedian and actor Charlie Murphy, passed away peacefully on Sunday with family at her side after facing the challenges of cancer for the past 2 years. The statement concluded, "The Murphy family appreciates all of the support they have received from friends and fans and requests privacy during this very difficult time." Charlie understandably took the loss of his wife after a lengthy illness hard, telling Tim Tiemann in an interview that there were so many things he wished he'd had the opportunity to tell Tisha. "I didn't say I'm sorry," the comedian shared, noting, "Anybody you have a relationship with for 17 years, there are things you say you don't mean." Their son, Xavier, was just 10 when Tisha passed away, but after losing his own father at the same age, Charlie was able to get on a level with him and reassure his son it would be okay. However, as the Black Jesus star admitted to Vibe in 2010, "I'm not okay. You're never really okay, you just learn to live with it. That's something monumental, losing somebody that close in your life." As Time confirmed at the time, Charlie Murphy was in the midst of a stand-up comedy tour when he passed away in 2017, sharing the stage with the likes of Cedric the Entertainer, Eddie Griffin, D.L. Hewley, and George Lopez. News of Charlie's death prompted an outpouring of heartfelt tributes on social media from close friends and colleagues alike, including the late comedian's Chappelle's Show co-star Donald Rawlings. Alongside a shot of the duo in happier times, Rawlings wrote, "You'll be missed but never forgotten. Charlie was a lion. It's time for darkness to see the light." As the Irish Sun pointed out, although he never reached the same heights of fame as Eddie Murphy, Charlie collaborated with him on movies such as Norbert and Vampire in Brooklyn. The younger Murphy was also the one who shared their family's statement in the wake of Charlie's death, According to TMZ, the family was shocked when he passed away because they were under the impression Charlie was reacting well to treatment for his leukemia. In fact, they were expecting him to make a full recovery. Moreover, the outlet also revealed Charlie kept his illness hidden from those working with him on the drama series Power. A rep for the network, Stars, shared their condolences, adding, "His talent shines in every scene."